today we're going to talk about increasing, and we're going to increase on the edge of your practice piece, and then we're going to increase in the middle. So what you need to do is get your 20 stitches cast on, ready to start this next practice piece. Let's get going, shall we? Right then, how to increase a stitch either end of your work. So we're going to increase this end and at the beginning. So I've cast on the 20 stitches and then we are going to increase it to 22. So we're going to go into the first stitch the same as we would as if we were going to knit it. But this time I'm not going to pull the loop off. I am going to go behind the first needle and take my needle and put it in the back of the stitch and knit it again. Okay, so now you have 2 stitches instead of the 1. Then we're going to knit all the way across. Now, if you missed the video on doing the knit stitch nice and slowly, just pop back and find the relevant video and it'll show you how to cast on and learn how to do your knit stitch. Then you'll be able to come back and catch up. So we're almost to the end of this row and we're going to increase into the last stitch. So I'm getting to the last stitch now. There we go. How many have I got left? 2. So into the stitch as normal, wool around as normal, bring it through as normal. Now this is where it changes. It goes underneath the other needle and back into the loop. Now you might need to manipulate this a little bit. Into the loop so that we are now knitting through the back of that last stitch. Now you bring your wool round as normal and push it through. Now this is your new loop being made and then you can take it off. And now we have an extra stitch on the end, and if I show you at the other end we have an extra stitch here. Okay, and that is increasing either end. So I'm going to do a purl row back now because we are working in stocking stitch, and we know that for stocking stitch it's a row of knit stitch and then a row of purl stitch. I'm not going to do any increasing on the purl row. I'm only going to show you on the knit row. In general, when you're looking at your knitting patterns, you are told to increase on the knit row. It just makes it easier. You can increase on a purl stitch, but for the purposes of this instruction, I'm showing you on the knit row. There we go. So that's the purl row almost done. And then we're going to get back round to the knit row and I will show you once more. Now, can you see how that is the 2 stitches made from the previous row? Alright, so we'll do that again. We're going to almost knit the first stitch. So this part is the normal bit, and then we go underneath the needle and put the point of our working needle into the loop. You see that's where it is? It's gone into the loop at the back. Then you bring your wool round again and take up that second loop. Now I have 2 stitches. There we are. So that is increasing on the edge of your row. And then we're going to go all the way to the other side, and we're going to have another go at increasing into the last stitch on your row. Yeah, nearly there. Right. Now, generally, we increase at either end of the row on a sleeve. A sleeve is the most typical example that you would use this. Generally, you would increase and then stocking stitch about 7 to 8 rows, or depending on what your instructions tell you to do, and then you would increase again either end of the row. And this makes your sleeve get a bit thicker. Right, so we're going to increase in this last stitch again. So all the way to there is as normal. Then you put the needle underneath, push that point through the back of the loop, bring the wool around, and there is your second loop from the first stitch. Yeah, now can you see how it's sloping? That's because you have now got more stitches on your needle. So that is increasing either end of the row. So I'm just going to pop that down, and I'm going to show you, using one of our previous examples, how it would be relevant to a sleeve. So we've done the rib, the stocking stitch, and as I say, in general, increasing either end of a row is used on a sleeve. There we go. Underneath, in through the back of the loop, and knit again, and you have increased. Then we're going to go all the way to the other side, and we're going to increase on the other side of this row. And then you would do your purl row, no increasing. Look at your knitting pattern, and your knitting pattern will tell you how many rows you need to work before you do this increasing row again. There we go, almost to the end of the row now. You should be getting much quicker at your knit stitch by now too. I hope you're doing lots of practicing. So here's the last stitch. We go in, make the stitch as normal, bring it up. This is where it changes. Take the needle underneath, in through the back of the loop, and wool around, and bring up a second stitch. Okay, so that's what it looks like in a sleeve. And then that sleeve, as you knit it longer and longer, would do this, so that it would fit the top half of your arm. Okay, right, that's increasing either end of the row. Okay, right, so we've come back to the piece we were working on earlier, set aside the other piece, and this time we are going to increase in the middle of the work. So I'm going to knit my way to the middle, and I believe that will be 11 stitches. Right. Let's just check. What am I on? 10, 11. Now, so this is going to be our middle stitch. So let's just take that one back over here. So the stitch before the middle stitch we are going to knit as normal to that point. Then remember, take the needle behind the work, through the back of the loop, wool round as normal and pull that stitch through. There we go. So knit the middle one. I'm not going to increase in that one. And then knit as normal to this point, needle behind and in through the back of the loop. Knit it up until you get that second loop and then off it comes. And that way we have increased either side of the centre stitch. There we are. So I'm going to knit to the end. So it's always easier to put your work down when you've got to the end. Right. So we're going to find the increase. So there's one increase stitch, there's the middle, and there's the other increase stitch. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue like this, doing a row of knit with a middle increase either side of the middle stitch, a purl row with no increase, and then back and increase on the middle stitch again. I have done about 6 rows, so that would be 3 knit with an increase and 3 purl without the increase. And I don't know if you can see there, but there's a central stitch that goes all the way up with no increasing, and then the increased stitches are radiating out from it, because each time I've knitted up to that centre stitch and increased into the stitch beside it. And this is how you get in the middle of the work increases, and you can see how they're feathering out from the centre stitch that has no increase in it. So that's just a little thing for you to practice. As I say, the easiest way to increase your work is either end. So have fun, happy practice. There you go. How to increase on your knitting, either end of the needle or in the middle. These are 2 very valuable techniques. Now you can shape your work instead of just having one long scarf. Sky's the limit. So it only remains for me to say to you now, well, you know what I'm going to say. If you could like, share and subscribe to these videos, I'd be very, very grateful. So thank you very much for your time and see you next time. Bye-bye.